Hello everyone, welcome back to 591 Lab. Today we will continue our last session with the PCNSE question review or the Palo Alto Networks Certified Security Engineer. Today I will show you some lab simulation so you can understand more about the topics of the PCNSE question exam. So please watch the video carefully. Before we start, let me introduce you about the 591 Lab. 591lab.com is the top IT training and certification exam brand in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. Our mission at 591 Lab is to provide our clients with exceptional exam preparation experience for certification in Cisco, Huawei, Aruba, Juniper, Palo Alto, and Fortinet exam tracks. If you have any queries or question about how to advance your technology career, please don't hesitate to contact us at 591lab.com. Today agenda, we will cover basically of two topics from the PCNSE questions. The first one will be the understanding how NAT and security policy works on Palo Alto Networks firewalls. And the second is the understanding the need of U-turn NAT. So what is the U-turn NAT and how we can configure of the U-turn NAT? I will show you on this video. Let's go to the question number 1. The question number 1 is follows. Refer to the diagram above. User at an internal system want to SSH to the SSH server. The server is configured to respond only to the SSH request coming from IP 172.16.15.1. In order to reach the SSH server only from the trust zone, which security role and NAT role must be configured on the firewalls. We have this option A, using these NAT roles and security roles. B and C is follows, and the diagram of the question number 1 is shown above. To answer this question, I will show you how we can set up the NAT rules and the security rules from the lab simulation. Let's go to the lab simulation. Okay, here we have a topology for our lab for the question number 1. For your information, we have a VM series firewall that is have two interface, which is the Ethernet 1/3 for the zone trust and the Ethernet 1/1 for the server zone. And the client we have on the trust zone is follows. It has a IP of 10.45.45.27, and the server have the IP address of 10.50.50.37, and it can only be accessed using SSH. To allow the traffic from the trust zone to the server zone, and the servers, it can only be accessed using the Ethernet 1 IP address. We need to do NAT rules to allow the traffic to the server using the IP of the interface 1. So to understand how the configuration on the firewall Palo Alto, we will go to the configuration. So here we have the firewall Palo Alto with two interfaces. The interface Ethernet 1 is follow using the 10.50.50.195, and the Ethernet 1/3 using the IP address of 10.45.45.1. The zone is the server zone for the Ethernet 1 and the trust zone for the Ethernet 1/3. Configure the NAT policy. We can go to the policy and go to the NAT. Here on the NAT, we can add the NAT rules. Click add, and then we can name the NAT. And then we can choose the original packet. We need to know that the original packet is come from the trust zone. So we choose the trust zone, and the destination zone will be the server, as we know that the server, and the destination address will be the IP of the server. The IP of the server is 10.50.50.37. And the translated packet, because we want the client to use the source address of the interface Ethernet 1, so we can choose the translated packet. We can define the source address translation here. We choose the dynamic IP endport, and we choose the interface address. The interface address, we choose the Ethernet 1/1, and the IP address we can choose from the option, which is the 10.50.195. And the destination address, because the destination is same, we do not need the translation. So we can ignore the destination address translation. So we finish the NAT configuration. We can click OK. And then we go to the security policy. You can go add here. Add the policy. You give the name of the policy. You need to define the source address. The source address is the zone is from the trust zone, and the source address we can choose any IP address from this trust zone, and the destination zone we can choose the server zone, and the destination address we need to choose the IP of the server, which is the 10.50.50.37. And the application, because we only need to allow the SSH, so you can find the SSH application, and on the service tab you can select the application default, and the action you can choose the allow action, and don't forget to tick the log at session end. Then you finish the security policy rules. You can click OK, and then after that you can go to the commit to apply the configuration to the firewall. Click commit, and we need to wait for the commit to be applied on the firewalls. Okay, once the commit status successful, you can close the commit. And to verify the configuration, we will go to the client. This is the client. So on the client, we can confirm the IP address of the client using the CLI. And here we can confirm that the client have the IP of 10.45.45.27. And then we need to access the server using the PuTTY to use the SSH. The IP is the 10.50.50.37, and the connection type is SSH, and we open. Here we grant the option to access and input the password to the server. And after we input the password to the server, we can then access the server. Here is the confirmation of the configuration that have been made on the firewall, and the NAT roles and the policy roles is configured correctly. Then we can close the session of the SSH, and then we go back to the firewall, yeah, to confirm the traffic. We go to the monitor and then to the log traffic, and at the log traffic we can find that we have we will have the policy, the log traffic from the 10.45.45.27 go to the 10.50.50.37 will be translated using the source NAT IP address 10.50.50.9195, and the application is SSH and the action is allow. This is conclude our diagram for this lab. So from the lab simulation, we can find that if we need to go to this server with the specific IP address that's only allowed, so we need to do the NAT rules. So the NAT rules, we can translate the source IP address that come from the client using the IP address that is allowed, which is the interface Ethernet 1.4 with the IP address 172.16.15.1. So the answer for this question will be C, using the NAT rules as follow. Source zone is trust, source IP is any client, destination zone will be server, destination IP will be the targeted server, and the source translation will be dynamic IP and port using Ethernet 1.4. And the security rules, we need to allow the traffic from the zone trust using the any IP address. Source IP address is any, and the destination zone will be in the server zone, and the destination IP will be the destination IP server, and the application is allows only the SSH. So the answer for the question number 1 is C. Let's go to the question number 2. Yeah, the question number 2 is follow. A user at an internal system queries the DNS server for their web server with a private IP of 10.250.241.131 in the DMZ. The DNS server returns an address of the web server's public address, which is 200.1.1.10. In order to reach the web server, which security rule and U-NAT rule must be configured on the firewall. So the diagram for this question is follows. We have this zone trust layer 3 with the client IP address is 10.50.240.131, and the Palo Alto has the DMZ zone, which is the web server sit there, and the untrust L3 zone with the IP address is follow. So how we can reach the web server from the client using the untrust L3 IP? So we need to configure some of the NAT roles and the security roles. And to understand more how we can configure this on the Palo Alto firewall, I will show you on the labs, and let's go to the labs. Here we have the topology for our lab that we use the VM series firewall, and we have 3 zones here. Trust zone. On the trust zone, we have the client to our test, which is The IP address is 10.45.45.27, and then we also has the DMZ zone and the server on the DMZ using the 10.50.50.37 and the Antras L3, which is the zone, Antras L3 zone, and the IP is 10.40.40.1, and we need to configure the client so the client can access the web server using the translation IP address of the 10.40.40.1. So the flow is not the direct flow to the DMZ or web server. This is not the flow, not the correct flow that we want, but the flow will be like this. So it will become from the trust zone and go to the untrust zone, and then it access the web server on the DMZ. How can we configure the firewall Palo Alto to achieve this flow traffic? The answer is we need to configure the U-turn NAT. What is the U-turn NAT? So basically in the U-turn NAT, it is the NAT address that we need. So the client will be access the web server using the untrust interface. We can go to the firewall. We check our interface. Yeah, we have the Ethernet 1/1. This is the DMZ zone, and then the 1/3. This is the trust zone, and then 1/4. And the IP address is 10.40.40.1. This is the untrust L3 zone. And then after that, we can create the policy. For NAT policy, we go to policy and then NAT policy. On the NAT policy, we can add the policy NAT, and we need to give the name. For example, this the name U-NAT to web and the original packet. We remember the source zone is trust zone, and the destination zone before the U-turn NAT is the untrust L3. So please keep in mind that we want the trust zone to access the server from the untrust L3. So we need to define the IP of this untrust IP, which is the 10.40.40.1. And the translation packet, this destination will need to be translated to the real server, which is the web server. And the web server, the translation, we need to use the destination address translation here. We can set the static IP address, which is the 10.50.37. And we do not need to translate the port because the original port will take care of the real port. And the source address translation we do not need to use because the source address will come from the trust, and the server will only know that the traffic come from the trust zone. Okay, we can click OK if we done, and then we can go to the security to give the policy. For example, we need to have this name, and then the source will be the trust zone. Anything from the trust zone, the source address will be any. And we go to the destination. The destination, you need to choose the DMZ zone, and the destination will be the IP public or the IP that resides on the Antras, which is the 10.40.40.1. And the application, we only will allow the web browser and the SSL, because the application is accessed using the HTTPS, so we choose this boot application. So in the services, we can choose the application default, and the action is allow. The action allow, and don't forget to lock the session. We can click OK if we finish, and after that we can do the commit. We click commit. Okay, once the commit successful, we can close the commit status window, and then we can go to the host client. Yeah, so this is the host client. Yeah, we can confirm the host client to check the IP. The host client has the IP address of 10.45.45.27. So this is the correct client. We can go to the web browser, and then we go to the web server. Yeah, and this is the 10.40.40.1, the IP of the Antras L3, and we can access the web server of the DMZ via Antras L3 zone. We have confirmed that our client can access the web browser of the web server. We now can check the traffic of the firewall. We back to the firewall. Wait a moment. We go to the monitor and traffic. We can see that the traffic come from the source zone, which is the trace, to the destination zone, which is the DMZ has the source IP, which is the 10.45.45.27, and the destination is the 10.40.40.1, and this destination is being translated to 10.50.50.37, and the action is allow. The configuration of our U-NAT and the policy is correct. Let's go back to the question and find the answer of the question. So this is how the lab for the U-NAT that I have shown. So we can back to the question number 2. The answer will be D. Yeah. So we need a NAT rule, which is come from the trust L3, and the trust L3, any source IP, yeah, any source IP on the trust L3, and the destination will be in the untrust L3, because we need to go to the destination IP to 100.1.1.10, and the destination translation address will be in the web server, that is the 10.250.241 and .131. And then the security rules will be the source zone from trust to the destination zone on the web server. This is the DMZ, and the destination IP address, which is the public IP, which is the 200.1.1.10. Today we have learned some of the material of the topic from the PCNSE exam, and we have successfully understand how NAT and Security Policy works, and how we can configure the U-turn NAT. So that concludes our training for today. I hope you found this overview of PSM topics helpful. Be sure to check out 5non1lab.com for more online course, practice exam, and training materials to continue your certification preparation. You can also visit www.591cert.com to learn about our full suite of services. And then thank you for joining today's class, and I wish you the best of luck on your certification journey. See you next time.